know if you saw this.
No, I didn't.
That's Adam Lands on the right.
Adam, I would like to know what your solution would be for gun violence.
Our friend Spiro. What's happening today, Spiro?
Having fun streaming. AI is ruining the world. You know, nothing too serious, right?
Now listen, I gotta be honest. Like, AI is ruining the world. Don't get me wrong, but there have been things that I've used it for here recently that I find quite a utility in. I was doing some research in a car, and I was doing the bullshit like talk to type, and I was just sending it to a Discord, and it's all just one giant paragraph, right? And I would say things like number 1, blah 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 blah. So I copied and pasted it when I got home, and I put it into AI and was like, "Can you format this like bolding the numbers and then spacing shit out?" And it did it. It did it like that. And it was amazing. I was like, oh, shit, that would have took me like 25 minutes because I still type with one finger. Yeah. But I will say I had to carefully go through because I was paranoid it was going to add shit. So I had to carefully go through and read it again because I was like, ugh. I have noticed that just little shit. I was testing Grok a little bit today. I did a big research pack, like 30 pages. And the way we did research in debate, I was very bad at it, but you would cut what was called cards, and a card would have a tagline, and then it would have the citation. So a card might be something like this. I'm reading a Wall Street Journal article written by a guy named Bob Smith, right? And I would say, Trump's tariff plan cost U.S. $2 billion contract. This was from Smith, Wall Street Journal, 2025. Okay. That's what I would read. Then I would, the whole section, maybe like 3 paragraphs I would have on a piece of paper, I would highlight maybe 4 sentences. Yeah. It was a clever trick in debate. What you would do is you'd supposedly highlight the most important parts of it, but then that was your evidence. And so then a judge at the end of the round would be like, let me read that evidence. Well, they're reading the parts of the card that's not highlighted too, right? So you kind of you're kind of bucking the system a little. You're getting more information out there than you had the time to read. But that's how I do research. So if you ask me, Spiro, if you were like, hey man, can you get me like 10 pages of research on climate change? That's how I would send it to you probably. Like it'd just be like 15 pieces of evidence from like maybe 10 articles. And I would put them like that. So I had a big pack like that. Yeah. I take it over to AI and I'm like, can you put these in the following 3 groups? Because I was just testing it. Argument 1, argument 2, argument 3. Now, it was iffy, but okay. Like, it was like, there were a couple I was like, I think this fits more in argument 2. But it basically just took like the 20 pieces of evidence that I had broken up, and it just rearranged them. And then I said, can you put the proper citation from where to find it on the previous document? And it just spit out random fucking page numbers. Just totally random, right? So it would be like, oh, this was from page 3 on your packet of information. Then I look on page 3 and I'm like, no, this was page 17. Where the fuck did it remotely come up with page 3? And I think there's a good lesson there that like the formatting stuff, fine, total utility, but it adds shit in. It's just talking out its ass. And so it's like, I could see an epidemic of like students or lawyers or whatever, they're going to be using this shit and it looks good. When you're looking at it, you're like, yep, looks pretty good. Sure, I could have done it better, but it would have took me 2 hours to format this. It only took it 30 seconds. Great. But you're going to miss those little details. And all of a sudden, it's going to be throwing in fucking numbers and shit like, oh, that increased birth rate's 54%. And you're going to be like, wait, what? Where did that come from? And it's just going to be total wholesale made up. So I don't know. I thought of you today, though, when I was doing that's one of the things I was going to say. I was like, man, for someone like me that has so much trouble because I think Discord's the shittiest. Like, to exchange information, Discord sucks ass. Like, it took me 6 months to realize if I'm typing a paragraph on Discord and I hit enter as like to space, to start a new paragraph, it just sends it. But if I hold shift and hit enter, then it'll put a space. It's little shit like that it's like, so to just take a huge block of like unreadable bullshit and be like, hey, can you just add spaces and shit where appropriate, like paragraph breaks? It does that pretty good, I found. But I think that's stuff that a normal, like any non-boomer that knows anything about Microsoft Word could probably accomplish in like 2 minutes. For me, though, it was like, wow, look at that. That just saved me like all kinds of time. So,
Yeah, well, this is part of the problem. You're describing something that's very real, which is the utility of it can oft not be denied. Because when you look at studies done by people who use AI in a variety of different settings, the experienced level of productivity definitely shows up as, yes, AI made things better for me. But when you look at the actual output and people's productivity, people's uh, effort level to have to go and fix problems, which is exactly what you described as a follow-up effect of it, then comes an issue. And unfortunately, it also costs a pretty penny to do that. One prompt lights up a household light bulb for 20 minutes. OpenAI alone, ChatGPT alone, that's just one model, does about 2.5 billion prompts a day.
That's crazy.
One data center is going to take up more. One data center that they're planning on build, just one. There's at least 6 being planned in the U.S. alone, is going to take up most of Manhattan in terms of size, and it's going to eat up 6 million gallons of water per day. That's right. You heard me correct. 6 million gallons of water per day. For what? So that you can format your text. And that's about it. And there's good news. The good news is that doing something like formatting your text or kind of like structuring things and whatnot, these are tools that we do actually have today. And they would require very little effort. You'd probably only need to put in like maybe 100,000 or 200,000 into a piece of software that would do that for you. And it would do it really well. And it would run on a potato in your back room. These are problems we can solve. We don't need all this AI crap for it.
I think that the biggest utility that I don't want to say utility. I think the most common use of AI is a glorified search engine. Yep. I think that's how most people use it. I think that they're just becoming lazy, and it's like, I'll just go to ChatGPT and I'll be like, hey, who won the basketball game last night? Yep. And shit like that. And it's like the amount of like sort of energy that it takes to operate that system, that it's basically like, yeah, we've had shit that does this for 30 years, but that's, sort of what's going on. Oh, you got something you want to show here?
Yeah. This is because you brought this up. What happens when people don't check what they're posting? This is a scientific image. Why do I say it's a scientific image? It is past peer review and was published on a journal. This. You can see there's the Dick.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah.
There's a ratat over here.
Yeah, the damn ratat.
We have the testome cells. Yeah. We have the spermatozoal stem cells. Yeah. So this is the kind of stuff that's spreading out there in the scientific community. Last year, approximately 20% of scientific papers were AI generated. The NIH, which accepts submissions for grants, scientific grants, has been so overwhelmed with AI-generated submissions, they have asked people to stop submitting. What's going to happen if this continues? In 2 to 4 years, you're going to have an inundation of scientific journals that will outweigh the ability of any peer review system. It's going to become even worse because you're going to have AI peer reviewing AI, which is just a recipe for further disaster, because human peer reviewers won't be able to keep up with the massive amounts of this crap on your screen, right? They're not going to be able to tell. And then think about what happens 4 years from now when you have a mass amount of scientific papers which have inundated the scientific community, and you can't tell what's AI generated versus what isn't. You are now going to have to go back to people who have put in real actual work on groundbreaking scientific studies and tell them, sorry, but we don't have the time to determine if your study is real. So we're going to throw out the whole kit and caboodle, and you're going to have to start over. And then we have to start from scratch.
No, you can see outside. I thought you were going to tell me that was a rendition of Big Balls, the Doge guy that was whooping ass in DC there. Well, I think that, it's different than AI, but it goes along with that, like technology. I remember started to be freaked out by like the idea, I forget who it was, if it was like Michael Jackson or Frank Sinatra or something. I first remember hearing about there was a concert where they put a hologram of them up on stage.
That's right.
And played music. Now, that's not like that impressive of technology. Like, okay, that's not what I'm, but the idea that freaked me out was like how your death could be monetized, right? That it's like, well, shit, you're not here, right? Your family or whoever your heirs are could be like, not only did they could sell the rights to your music or something, but now it's like, we could just put on full concerts, right?
Yeah.
And think about like, I don't know how other people are out there, but I don't agree with my family at I love my family dearly, but I don't agree with them with everything. And so let's say that my, God forbid, something happens to my immediate family, and then for whatever reason, the next of kin to me is like my aunt who hates Trump and is a rabid liberal. Yeah. Who's to say that a hologram of me can't put up? And now with this Jim Acosta interview, we've gone beyond that. We've gone where you could make AI, and I think it'll only get more advanced as far as fooling people, where it basically looks like you, the deceased, they could literally make it look like you're saying anything that they fucking want. And to me, that's one of the most grotesque, ghoulish things imaginable.
Yeah. So we're going to get into, if you want to show it, we'll show it. But just as we get into this, I want you to keep in mind this concept. I just went over this earlier this week. There are entire AI sex brothels. And they put AI in actual silicone bodies. In China, it's a big business. I went over that. Now, I want you to imagine that you could resurrect a dead loved one, put them in a silicone body, put an AI rendition of them, and then proceed to have carnal relations. Now I want you to imagine what would happen. Give me a moral reason, especially from a theistic, a leftist point of view, why you shouldn't create, let's say, people who are not of the correct age to be participating in certain activities, create them in an AI sense. Who's being harmed?
Yep. You can see quickly how we're going to, just how disgusting and perverted things are going to get. Though someone does mention Rob GPT could debate forever. That's true. All right, here we go. This is just a 25-second clip. I don't think I could stomach anymore. By the way, if I'm not mistaken, this AI rendition of this young man who was killed was created by his family, with his family's blessing, his parents, yes. I believe. So Here we go. Here's noted journalist Jim Acosta interviewing.
Joaquin, I would like to know what your solution would be for gun violence.
Great question. I believe in a mix of stronger gun control laws, mental health support, and community engagement. We need to create safe spaces for conversations and connections, making sure everyone feels seen and heard. It's about building a culture of kindness and understanding. What do you think about that?
I think that's a great idea, Joaquin.
I mean, yeah. I don't know who more pissed at, this poor kid's family, which I guess that I can at least say through their grief. Maybe people through their grief, it's hard to judge because they make piss poor decisions. But man, Jim Acosta there, what a fucking ghoul. Like, yeah. And the way he just, I think that's a great idea, you fucking douchebag. Like, it's so gross. Yeah. You can only imagine, like, look, I'm sorry to be like this. I happen to think that many of the people in my life that don't know shit about tech are some of the smartest people I've ever met, or at least wisest people I've ever met. But I can tell you right now that I know people, they're like above 50 years old, that would see that. And if I told them, like, yeah, that's not a real person, they'd be like, what? It just looks like someone like recording from bad reception, right? Like they're on a beach or something, the reception's bad. But it would blow their mind so you can imagine, and I've said this for a long time, like, you see the hoaxes against people like Trump, etc. What are we going to do when there is a tape that's released of him having sex with someone? And then it's just total fake. But millions upon millions of people are going to be like, I saw it. Yeah. We see people say, I saw Trump say drink bleach. I saw the interview when he said it. And it's like, that never happened. So what are you going to do when there is an AI of Trump saying, I'm telling you all right now, drink bleach? You know, how are people going to react to it?
So, so I covered this today, actually. You have this guy, he's an MP in the UK. He created an AI robot of himself. If you go play the video here, you can see it's exactly the same kind of thing here. Let me just jump ahead a little bit. And so here it is. He just created a bot of himself. CEOs are doing this. They've created bots of themselves. These things now exist in conferences. You go to conferences and there's AI bots of these people. And to your point, exactly to your point, these AI bots are being used to trick people into scams and extortions online on TikTok and whatnot. Yeah, this is only going to get worse because it's a double-edged sword. It's a dual-edged sword. As it continues to provide, the low level of utility that I go over every day, it's going to provide a huge amount of utility to people who want to use it for nefarious reasons. And it's going to create a lot of confusion. I recently went over an entire special stream on Sunday about AI religions. And so we did a deep dive on religions around AI, and these bots are just being recreated in human fashion to capture people's, lack of spiritual or religious, abilities. And so you can see in that video with Acosta, one of the reasons Rob, I think you're touching on something, and I'm going to kind of enhance it. One of the reasons why something like that is particularly egregious is because you are taking a dead man's memory, and people around him are taking a dead man's memory, and they are recreating it in this lackluster. It does no justice to the human being that existed. This bot is not a justice to the human being that existed. And then what Jim here is doing is he's using it to target people's feelings with this flowery language that doesn't mean anything. What the hell did the bot say? It just said, blah, blah stuff. And then it's used as a way to coax others into accepting whatever message Jim Acosta wants to say. It's a huge disservice to the human being that existed before this.
It takes away your your personal. Here's the thing too. Let's say that, God forbid, anyone watching goes through a terrible tragedy where they have a very close loved one pass away, and they want to honor their memory. You may think you're doing the right thing. This is, if I pass away, my parents might say, well, Rob, was really into politics, and he would have really wanted J.D. Vance to win in 2028. So we'll just make a little AI of him saying, hey, get out there and vote for J.D. Vance. Yeah. You don't know that, though. You don't know that. And you're putting words in my mouth, and that's someone well-intentioned. Imagine what you could do if you're ill-intentioned.
Yeah.
I remember, this is the opposite of what most people think, but I remember Christopher Hitchens, who was an atheist, and he said one of the things that infuriated him was that he knew damn well stories would spread when he died, that he found God on his deathbed, that people would say, I was there, I heard him pray, and that infuriated him, that his memory would be, now, I wish he would have found God in his deathbed, but that's neither here nor there. The message that he's saying is when you're gone, you're gone. You can't say, no, that's not true, that's not what I believe. And so imagine what you could do. Imagine from either side's perspective, the things you could have your opponents or your ideological, dissenters, what you could have them say posthumously, and huge amounts of people will believe it. There's another part to this, that I think raises questions. You brought up sort of the, I know what I was going to say before I say that, just to give you an idea. Now, I could be wrong, but the person that, who was it that shot up that school? Was it Adam Lanza? I can't remember. It doesn't matter. Lanza was one of the people that was a shooter. So I saw this in response to the Jim Acosta interview. I don't know if you saw this.
No, I didn't.
That's Adam Lanza on the right.
Adam, I would like to know what your solution would be for gun violence.
Great question, Jesse. By the way, big fan. My solution would be to stop giving children SSRIs. Perhaps if we just ask the intelligence community to stop, they will. Probably not, though.
You see the arms race that we're developing into? Now, obviously, that person did it as a joke, but you can see quickly how, and they showed a little glitch there to obviously show that it was AI. But I mean, we're just on the cusp of this. I think even to the discerning eye, we're 5 years away from, or maybe even sooner, from not even being able to tell. Right? Unless you're truly an expert, that you'll see a video of just a 15-second video of someone talking. And then if someone told you, that's not a real person, that's an AI constructed figure online there, you would just be like, I had no idea of knowing. There's still little things, they have dead eyes. Like it's like sort of uncanny valley stuff. But
Yeah.
I did think that it was funny that guy responded. I mean, it's terrible, it's horrific, but we just humanized Adam Lanza. Good job, right? I mean, it's just it's out of control.
It's crazy, but I have good news. It will never reach the point that it will become indistinguishable from reality. If you look at what these systems do to generate those videos, I'll give you the 5-second brief overview. They either take an existing image or they take a blank slate. They throw a bunch of random pixels in there, black, blue, white, whatever it is. They randomize over top or straight blank. And then they work backwards and they remove the randomness and change certain portions of it frame by frame by frame. And that's why you get all of these distortions, because it's not actually tracking, hey, this is an arm. I better make sure it's moving correctly. You can see this with robotic images. Robots have very mechanical systems. I went over this with Emmett the other day. They have very robotic systems. They have joints. They have like little, connectors. They need to move a certain way. You put a human down and ask them to draw a robot. They're going to have like a very logical, like, okay, when the robot moves this way, it's probably going to need to have like a little joint over here. AI systems don't do that. They literally throw random stuff on there. Then they remove randomness until it starts to look something like what they get. That's the nature of the system. When you have something that's random like that as an ontological state of being, it will never, ever, ever get to the point where it's indistinguishable from reality. You'd have to rip out the entire system and start from scratch.
So that sort of answers Object's sort of question there. It says, or point that you're using old AI models. You're saying that even if we keep advancing upon the groundwork of what we have, it'll never reach that levels. Would it be hypothetical to create something completely? I mean, I guess hypothetically you could create something completely new, but it wouldn't be building off of like what we see here.
No, it's an ontological state. It's as in if you break it apart and you look at the code that runs these systems, how they generate text, how they do their quote unquote searches, which is not even real search, how they do the images. It is all based on a pure layer of what's called stochastic or random generation systems. Randomness will never, ever achieve a indistinguishable from reality thing. You are always going to get failure rates all the time. That's their natural course. You'd have to rip that entire thing out and come up with a deterministic closed box system. Good luck with that.